Talking about languages.
To celebrate the release of the movie adaptation of John Green's The Fault in Our Stars in June 2014, National Bookstore, the largest bookstore chain in the Philippines, published a Filipino translation of the beloved novel. The quote reads, "We were star-crossed lovers, ours is an epic love story." It seemed like a great idea at the time. At around the same time, Time magazine published that Filipinos were the most obsessed in the world with The Fault in Our Stars. Many people could now enjoy the heartbreaking story of Hazel Grace Lancaster and Augustus Waters without having to deal with the language barrier. Plus, this edition was cheaper. This is 17 dirhams. So it seemed like a favorable deal to everybody, right? Unfortunately, reactions on the internet were less than welcoming. Some people reacted with outright rejection. Why? No. Some people disgust. Ew. Just ew. Some people exaggerated. That's it. Earth sucks. I'm moving to Mars. Another person said, my eyes would bleed if I would read this. However, what got to me as a Filipino speaker was this tweet. Paraphrasing, it means, that quote was so deep, I can't even. Now, to hear a Filipino say something about their own language, to say that I can understand something in my own language, affected me. Because it led me to think about how pervasive English is in today's world. Now, let's delve into this. What language are 98% of scientific papers written in? English. What language are most computer terms and programming languages based on? English. What language is used by most internet speakers? What language is used by the United Nations Security Council, the European Union, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, NATO? Right? It seems like English is this creepy, epidemic-like grasp of virtually every aspect of modern life. Am I trying to prove a conspiracy? Maybe. We may not know when the New World Order will come to power, so rest assured it will speak English. Now, an increasingly globalized and urbanized world encourages the development of a more uniform way of communication. And English obviously seems like the best bet, right? But here is the challenge of change. Where does this leave the rest of the world's languages? In his book, Language Death, David Crystal, a linguist, proposed that 96% of the world's population spoke 4% of the world's languages. In other words, 4% of the world's languages, 4% of the world's population, spoke 96% of the world's languages. This is a dangerous position to be in. According to the Endangered Languages Catalog, by the end of this century, half of the 7,000 living languages we have today will die. Now, you may very well ask me, so what? I don't care about those languages. I speak English and English alone. And wouldn't it be easier if you all spoke the same language, right? Wouldn't there be one fewer subject to study? We wouldn't have to be careful with foreign words anymore if we were to say hello and it actually meant something different, even offensive in another language. International treatment would be way easier and much cheaper without the need for translation services. Also, there's a benefit if you're a tourist and you're trying to awkwardly ask for directions without using words. Hotel, beach, McDonald's. But there is more at stake when a language dies. In her language garden analogy, linguist Dr. Ufele Garcia asked us, if we traveled the world and saw the same type of flower in every garden, every field, in every country in the world, wouldn't that be boring? Wouldn't that be dull and uninteresting? Fortunately, today we have a myriad of scents, of fragrances, of colors, and of flowers. The same can be said for language. The world would be so boring if we only had one way of talking about it. A monolingual world, though easy to maintain, would fail to capture the richness and diversity of the human experience, the human race. This is because language isn't just a set of sounds and letters and rules. A language is the repository, a language is the keeper of a country's identity, history, and culture. If you want to know what a community really values, pay attention to its language. For example, I'd like to ask you something. What is this? What are the pictures you see here? Rice. All the English speakers, I can tell. Because only English speakers have one word for this, rice. Filipino speakers have 5 and more. We love rice. As a child, I was conditioned to be a rice fanatic. Every time I looked at European breakfasts, I would tell myself, that's not a meal. Where's the rice? German speakers also have a sort of rice affinity with sausages. It's weird. The word for sausage in German is Wurst, and there are many expressions for the word Wurst. For example, wie beleidigte Leberwurst spielen, which literally means to play the offended liver sausage, which basically means to play like you're offended for no reason at all. Why? Why a sausage? Es ist mir Wurst is an expression which means I don't care. Literally, it means it's all sausage to me. Why a sausage? Die Wuchtigkeit, which means sausaginess. In English, it means an I don't care attitude. For an inanimate object, a sausage has a lot of emotions and intelligence, I can tell you. So, it's also important to maintain linguistic diversity, because English, in many ways, is an insufficient language. Why do you think we borrow so many foreign words from other languages? Show of hands, who here has done this? So you bought a book from a bookstore that you thought you'd like, but you leave it in a pile in your room and never read it. Show of hands. Does English have a word for that? The Japanese do. The word is tsundoku, the act of leaving a book in a pile in the corner unread. Point 1, other languages, 0 English. Next. Have you ever felt pleasure at somebody else's misfortune, somebody else's pain? Yes? You sick people. German has a word for that, Schadenfreude, which we borrow untranslated from German. Point 2, other languages, 0 English. Next. Have you ever heard a song that gets stuck in your head for days and days? Yeah, you have, I have. Taylor Swift, thank you. You have a word for that in English? No? LSS maybe? German has a word for that. Point 3, other languages, 0 English. It's called Ohrwurm, which literally means earworm, something that digs into your ear and you can't get out. It's so evocative, it's imaginative, and it's wonderful how many things other languages can, give to us. Finally, ever seen a baby so cute that you can hardly resist the urge to reach out and pinch its cheeks? Maybe it's just you, okay, right. Does English have a word for that? Filipino does, it's called giggle. Click forward for other languages, 0 English. So you can see that English isn't the only way we can look at the world. So in other languages, other foreign languages, can give us a different way of seeing the world, a different way of describing the things we see, describing the human condition. Now, don't think I'm trying to put English down. I love all my languages equally. Unfortunately, the society we live in, I realized from the tweets and the comments on Facebook we saw earlier, that this society increasingly favors the Anglophone, the English speaker, because English is associated with economic and social progress and caters less to the non-English speaker. My mother, who's here tonight, or this evening, knows this. She knew this, that it was important for me to perfect my English down to the accent, because this accent is not employable. So when I was younger, there was a firm no Filipino rule at home, something a fussy French teacher would print, laminate, and blue tack all over the classroom. I grew up not being able to understand the language of the game shows we watched or the soap operas I avoided, and I'm not alone. With mass migration came this generation of children that learned to speak the dominant language without having the need to learn their parents' language. So far, it's worked. I've had somebody come up to me here and say, "You look like a Filipino, but you don't sound like one." Despite that, I've always felt that I've been cheated of something that was dear to me. I've always felt that a massive chunk of my identity was missing. Now, as is obvious, so far, I love languages. And whenever I take the metro, I play a game with myself. I would sit down and listen to the languages around me and try to identify them. Or I would walk the platform and try to identify the languages of the people I pass. And on good days, I catch French speakers. Every time I hop in a taxi, the very first question I ask the driver is, "Hi, where are you from?" Why do I do that? It's so that I can thank them and give them directions in their own language. On my phone, I have a database, an ever-growing database of Nepali, Malayalam, Tamil, and Bengali. I often ask myself what the point of doing all this is. Why do I want to learn to count to 10 in 5 languages and say thank you in 10? But I am reminded by every time I see the Belgian tourist or the Carolite taxi driver smile. It's a smile that comes only when hearing one's language. It's a smile that says, "I understand you. I am home." It comes from the knowledge that you are not alone. But admittedly, I never had this with Tagalog, with Filipino. Adults would make fun of me for my accent, and the shame forced me to keep switching to Filipino, to English. With every syllable I struggled to enunciate came the weight of embarrassment. It didn't seem right that I could speak French when I'd never been to France or ever met a French person. I speak French better than my Filipino. But this hasn't stopped me from trying. And neither should it stop you. Speak your language. We need a linguistically diverse world because each language offers a new way of viewing life, of describing the turmoil that exists in our hearts. And don't just stop there. Adopt different languages. I know English, Filipino, French, Arabic, a smattering of German and Spanish. Next on my list is probably Italian. And every one of us here is bilingual. Am I correct in assuming that? Right? This is why Dubai is such a beautiful place, because we bring all our stories, all our cultures, and most importantly, all our languages together. And here in Dubai, in this room, we can start. We have the power to make the language garden beautiful, colorful, fragrant. So let's meet the challenge of change. Let's make sure that this world we live in, and the world that we will live in the future, will be as colorful as that Dutch tulip field. Thank you very much.